I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Hello, and welcome to Women Awakening. I am your host, Cynthia James. I get the honor of introducing you to extraordinary women that inspire me. They're change makers. They are people that have stepped into their power and bring their gifts to this planet. And so what I'm grateful for is that you understand that we all get to change this world one woman at a time. Our neighborhoods, our communities, our families, we get to do this. So today I have a woman that just blows my mind. I am so excited to know her. Her name is Melinda B. Wolfe. She has served as Chief People Officer and led talent initiatives with a passionate focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion at companies including GLG, Pearson, Bloomberg, American Express, and Goldman Sachs. And across industry, she's joined leadership teams to optimize organizational design, culture, and human resources priorities while driving outcomes for employee engagement, productivity, and profitability. Melinda began her career in public finance at Merrill Lynch, where she managed billions with a B of dollars of project finance and public power transactions for public and private sector clients. Melinda, I am so glad that you're here.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here and so excited to be in this conversation with you, Cynthia.
Yeah, well, ladies, just so you know, we met by chance. I was invited into a cohort and Melinda was part of the group, and we all fell in love and we've been connecting ever since. And so, but I didn't know what she did and I didn't know what her focus was. So I want to talk about what you do, but I want to talk about where you came from, because I really feel that some people need to know that everybody starts out at a certain place and then they blossom into who they are to become. So tell us about your childhood and your education.
So I came from a very homogenous community outside of Chicago in a place called Skokie. It was made famous because the Nazis tried to march there because there were so many survivors of concentration camps in that community. And it was a pretty sheltered life. It was a pretty aspirational life for a lot of people who were trying to build their families and grow. My parents came from nothing and they made their lives. My father was a self-made man. And what I can say about my growing up that kind of flies in the face of everything I've done as an adult is that I didn't know what was out there in the world. I didn't even know that there were people who were not Jewish in my context that were religions other than Christian. It just didn't even dawn on me. And so it wasn't until I really stepped out of that world and saw how diverse it was and how much there was to learn that I realized how sheltered I'd been. And my family really never wanted me to leave. So it was really through sheer desire and curiosity and kind of pushing forth that I was able to move on and have experiences across the US in loads of different cities. I went to school in St. Louis at Washington University. After that, I worked in a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. I moved to Boston. I went to the Harvard Kennedy School for my graduate work. I then lived in New York for a long period of time, followed by LA for a short period of time, and then back to New York. And then since then, I've had a really global set of experiences, having the privilege to work in Europe, in South Africa, in, all parts of the globe. So I've had a really fascinating career.
Yeah, well, and I guess I'm wondering, were you always interested in people? Because you are a human resources expert. And so were you always interested in people? And once you stepped out of that bubble and started seeing that there were other people and other things, I mean, did something get ignited within you?
Well, actually, it's a great question, Cynthia, because when I got out of school, I was interested in people processes, in helping people, in public policy, and doing things in the world that would make a better world. And out of graduate school, that was not an easy thing to do. It was the era of President Reagan. A lot of the public sector jobs were not available. And for me, I wondered where I'd land. And I ended up landing and doing work, as you mentioned earlier, in public finance, which was not where I thought I'd be. But the real corner turned for me when I realized there was this job at Merrill Lynch called Global Diversity and Strategy, which wasn't diversity of portfolio, it was diversity of people. And I really networked my way up to that job. I didn't know people in that part of the company. I didn't have connections, and I joined a women's network there. I met people and continued to do things, improve myself, and eventually took over a job in diversity, which was kind of like I went down this path through all my professional life for the first 15 years and all of a sudden took a huge left turn and did something completely different. And that's where my passion was really ignited, by this work of working closely with people, by understanding difference, by building collaboration, by bringing people together. And that's what really fired me up and got me excited and made the rest of my career what it has been.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you took the turn.
Thank you.
So I want to know, because now you work for you.
Yeah.
People hire you to bring in your expertise. So tell me a little bit about the transition from working for companies to working for Melinda, and do you call yourself a consultant?
I am. I'm a consultant and I'm a coach. And I use the word coach carefully because um, what I find is that I end up coaching people a lot. It wasn't the word I was going to use to describe myself, but that's what I end up doing in many cases. I do want to say, Cynthia, because it's really important, that although I've done all of these wonderful parts of my career, that I kind of have another life, which is my social impact life, and that I am really involved in a number of nonprofits. I sit on 5 nonprofit boards and I do a lot of work. So one of the rationales behind my leaving the corporate place that I operated was that I was loving my nonprofit work and knowing I could make an impact, and that I wanted more time to do that work because it's really hard to run human resources for a big global company and do almost anything else, especially besides, supporting your family, your parents, or your community. And so I left, and it's been a fascinating journey since, because I left right before this racial reckoning. I left before people were really talking about diversity in the way they're talking about it now. I have a huge set of experiences helping companies shape their diversity strategies and their processes and policies. But the moment now calls for something greater, something bigger. And what I see is a lot of people back to the process of building window dressings as opposed to driving meaningful systemic change. And so I work as an independent agent now, and I go in working with teams, working with CEOs, working with executive teams to try and really unearth what makes change, what really helps people who have otherwise been marginalized, and how to really convert this moment into opportunity for companies to not only diversify their workplace, but create an equitable environment and an inclusive environment where everyone feels like there's a place for them. And so I can do deeper work across more and different companies being an individual agent. And I've really enjoyed this time.
Well, I love that. And I love that you found a way to merge your gifts and your passion. And I got a couple of questions. And was when you were about to take this leap, was there any trepidation or concern about if you could make it work? Or was it just this is my calling and I'm going?
So that's a great question for me because I did have lots of trepidation. And in fact, um, for my whole career, I had never taken a break between any job, not one. I mean, I did take maternity leave, which at the time that I took it was somewhere a little less than 12 weeks because it was during a financial crisis and I had to get back to work. But I had never stopped. I'd never just taken a pause and kind of evaluated and figured out what was next. And so it was with huge risk, but real intention that I decided to free myself of the shackles of work as I knew it to create new work styles for myself. And when I did that, I found that it was actually an ecstatic place for me. Like, wow, I can play in all these places that I care about, and I don't have to do the things I didn't really enjoy doing at my work. So I didn't know it would feel that way. I didn't know exactly how it would turn out, but I haven't spent enormous amounts of time looking for work. I've just spent a lot of time with my network, having been called upon by my former mentees, by people I know and others, kind of plugging into problem solving that is just totally exciting for me.
I love that. Well, and it sounds like you took a leap. When I left my job to do what I do today, it was a leap of faith. But there was something in me that said this is the right thing to do, even though I didn't know where I was going and how it was gonna work. But I love that you wanted that sense of freedom and wanted that sense of expansion. And so I want to talk a little bit about your social activism, and what does that mean to you? And I love when you said that you're seeing that people want to do window dressings, like, oh, we deal with diversity and inclusion as opposed to what's systemic. I loved that. So, but I guess I want to know, what is it in you in this moment that's calling you the most?
It's really a good question. And I would tell you that I've had my own form of racial reckoning as a white woman, recognizing that it's not always easy to do this work and that I've walked many miles in the shoes of other people, but not quite fully. And that I really learned a lot more about all sorts of hardships and challenges people have endured that I never fully understood in the work that I had done for a long time. And I really want to actually credit this COVID period and the learnings we've had from George Floyd and all of the kind of change that has driven people to understand what systemic racism is about and what we can do to really change this country to be a fairer, better place for all. So my focus for a long time was on women, and it still is. I mean, for years I was on the board of Planned Parenthood of Greater New York. I do great work through a nonprofit organization called Zana Africa that supplies sanitary napkins to girls in Kenya to make sure that they have greater agency over their bodies. It's not only the sanitary napkins, it's the education, etc. But my focus over the past year has really been about social justice. It's about equality. It's about making sure that people have the same opportunities and the same chance to experience life in an equitable way. And I do that in all sorts of areas. One of them is through an amazing organization called Echoing Green, which funds social entrepreneurs and which has been acknowledged for having funded more social entrepreneurs of color than almost any other organization around, and really being at the leading edge of this. I also do a lot of work through an organization called Auburn Seminary, and Auburn builds bridges across religious difference to leverage social justice. So while my work and passion around women and girls is very, very strong and inherent to everything I do, it's been this period that's made me even more excited to look at social justice more broadly and to think about people in an even more inclusive sense.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, I've traveled a lot, and what I've learned is that when you begin to understand people and cultures and ways of being, it opens your mindset. And so I love that you're doing this. And I want to talk about, because you have a diverse family.
Yes, I do. So, and I've always talked about it, but I've never felt it acutely as I have in the past several months, I'd say. My husband is Japanese American, and obviously I have a mixed race daughter. And that always was a path into diversity for me in a lot of ways. But with all the anti Asian hatred activity going on right now, where I sit in this is a very different place. I live in New York City. I am now not there. I'm in another community where I spend time in upstate Connecticut. And I have to say, on occasion, my husband goes out of the house to go do something, and I worry about him. I've never done that before, but I'm really worried. I've never seen another Asian face around here. That's just not what this community is about. And so, these are the moments where you realize how vulnerable we all are, no matter what you think and what you feel and the security you seem to have. It's illusory. And I am really proud to bring this diversity into my life. I've learned so much about the Japanese culture, the Asian culture. I've loved that. And it's made me kind of a culture vulture generally. I love learning about different cultures, traveling and bringing them into my life. I would say that marrying a person who was not only not in my religion, but not even of my, ethnic background of some way or shape was a surprise given how I grew up. But it's been one of the most enriching experiences ever, as hard as it can be these days.
Well, I want to say ditto, because I'm married to a Jewish man, and different cultures, different ways of being, and one of the great gifts of my life. So I totally get what you're saying. I love that there are women like you who are committed and open and available and wanting to make a difference. I ask people the same question at the end, but how do people find you if they want you to come in and bless their company and bless their organization into really getting clear? How do they find you?
Well, most people find me through LinkedIn, or I'm more than happy to give you my email, which is Melinda at melindabwolfe with an E.com. And I've really grown my business through my large network. I consider myself a connector. I love connecting. One of the great gifts of COVID was actually connecting with you, Cynthia. I think you are one amazing woman, and I'm fascinated all the time by your insights, by how you inspire people in your community, how you build community, how you give women confidence, and it's just been a gift. And that is word of mouth. Somebody brought you into my life, and how lucky I am for it. So thank you. And if anybody in either small companies or large would like to have a conversation about how to create greater inclusion and a sense of belonging in their companies, I would love to talk to them. I get joy out of these conversations, and I get joy out of helping in the world.
Wow. And I'm so grateful you're in my life, and I'm so grateful you're in the world. So this is the last question I ask everyone. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the one thing that makes awakening for women important?
Whoa. The one thing?
The one thing. What do you want them to know?
Well, I would tell you this, and maybe I can bundle that into one answer through this. I think awakening comes from the great trifecta. So here's the one thing. It's a trifecta, so there's three. One is being able to be self-aware and build yourself up and give yourself love and support from you, from your own well.
Mhm.
Two is being demanding of your partner in whatever form your partner comes, so that there's equality in what you do. And then three in this trifecta is really the magic icing on the cake, which is to build a community of people who are believers and like-minded in their desire to make the world a better place. And if you surround yourself with a community of people who do this, your life will be better. You will awaken every day with the desire to embrace opportunity, and you will know where to go on the days where you're not ready to embrace to get fueled for what you need to do.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Trifecta, ladies. I hope you're writing this down. so, so Melinda, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your commitment to humanity. And thank you so much for your authenticity and willingness to be seen. I'm grateful that I get to walk with you, and I'm excited to see what's next for you.
Well, thank you, Cynthia, and keep on doing this, because you make the world a better place for it.
Thank you. So, ladies, we do a podcast every week. You meet sensational women doing sensational things. And that's not that they're extraordinary. They're ordinary women who've stepped into their extraordinary energy. And what I want you to know is that you are extraordinary. You are powerful. You are dynamic. You are a magnificent manifestation of the universe. And you're here to do something no one else can do. And so your only job is to open, listen, and awaken, and then follow the dreams and the callings of your heart. Please subscribe. We're on iTunes and Spreaker and Amazon and Apple, and also on YouTube. Come back again and again and just breathe in and take in these extraordinary women. I'm so happy that I get to walk with you. Many blessings.